This is Justin Scoop on Thursday, November 6th, 2025. Taking a look at SPX. So we got some more selling today on the daily. We are back below this midline. We closed below the 21 that we bounced off of yesterday. And there's no longer any sort of island going on up here. So we ended up trading right through this space here, this open gap back between the high here and the low over here. We shut that down today. So the island is totally closed. And so let's look into how things moved during the day because there was a lot of movement. And one key area, well, a number of key areas, but first thing I want to point out, well, I've got yesterday and today out on the screen here. So we had drawn this in this kind of consolidation area. There's a couple different ways you can draw it. There, with the bodies, it was kind of going like that, kind of like a flag that ended up moving. Um, if you just look at kind of the highs and the lows, we got back into that range today with this S curve. Look at that, right back into that range. That's right where this traded. So right into about the same high as the open, kind of the opening consolidation range. That's where we retested today. On SPY, I was hoping to go a little bit higher than it did. It would have been great had it tagged back up into the low here. There probably would have been more sellers, but still, there were a lot of people shorting this right here. So that was a great range to get back into today. Um, and then we retested kind of similarly. We came up, into a range that we had sold off, obviously, and did that again over here, um, back into kind of this level. So we were doing a lot of retesting on our way back down, which was really good. And so let me zoom back out. Actually, I got to turn off the drawings. There we go. And let's just focus in on today. So with that framework of kind of like, hey, that's the level we're at. Let's just look at today and look at how some of the options moved. Um, and let's try and figure out which options were some good ones to be trading today. So let's start with being back up into that level and right into the 21, right into the 21. Buying here, which was kind of around the same area that this was the opening range again, kind of breaking out, retesting, and then going. So that was a great place. That was the 67.25 put that I'm looking at. A lot of other options had value at this point of the day. There's so many that you could have just been further out and not expect as big of a move. This one had a move, phenomenal move from, you could have bought this at four and a stop down at three, and then it ultimately made it up to 24. Not that you've been holding on to it for that long, but we're clearly going down once we were kind of breaking down these little. We let's see. So let me try and hold the cursor on here. So we were taking out this low, yesterday's low, right in this first push down, and then S curving, and then continuing lower. And so because of that, there were a lot of S curves like this. So this I just went out to the 6,700 put, and that put in a low of 1.5 right here. So again, another one that you could have been buying, and maybe not right at 1.5, but set it up to buy at two and a stop down at one, and it didn't get below one here at the open. So if you're buying at two and then just riding this initial move, that made it up to like 8.4. Maybe you just closed it out at this previous high on the put itself, and that high was around 5.27. So get out at five. So buy it at two, you're out at five, and that's $300 per contract, and you risked 100, right? Like it, that's how to do it. So there were a lot more ways that this could have been traded throughout the day. Um, the we did make it back into the 100 again, really got above it and kind of consolidated. This was, let me zoom in on some of this. What was going on here? Was there any sort of framework going on? I guess I was just anticipating like this should sell down some more. What ultimately did it, just looking at this part of the day, you had a high. You tried to S curve and break out. That didn't work. You can kind of draw a consolidation here. You can connect those 2 points, but it does kind of work that this is a nice little symmetric triangle. Break down, retest right into the 100 and roll back down. Then this was great. Nice little stair step here, or a little bit of a flag. And then that pushed even lower right at the end of the day. So there was quite a bit of selling. You also have the squeeze going on. So a number of things saying, hey, this should go lower throughout the day or through the end of the day, the last hour or so. So if we go and look at another option, let's get a little closer. Let's go back to the 67.25 and see what was going on with that one, because this is one that I had traded towards the end of the day here. And so this was a really great setup. So um, this one's consolidating. It was just going sideways. It's like, hey, great. It's got a good level. Let me get into this. It ended up coming all the way down to 0.25. I don't remember what exactly I entered, but you could have still bought it for $1. Actually, I may have bought it for $1. When was I buying this? I thought it was later. I think it was two something, but I was buying for $1. Maybe I thought the breakdown was going to happen here and then it stayed. Um, so I had some of this consolidation on a lower time frame, like 1 minute or something. That didn't work. It pushed down. I'm like, I'm going to stay in it because I still think that we're going to go lower. And then it started to break down, which meant this moved up and got me profitable. And I didn't exit, and it came back into $1 and lower than that. And I was down again. It's like, should I have exited? It's like, no, no, it's going now. And so I had a target further out. I ended up moving the target into four. No, into five. No, I think I had the target at four. So I was in at one and I was out at four on this candle. I think it was this candle. I zoomed back out a little bit. So oops, let me just go into here and zoom out on this. So interesting thing about getting out at the $4 price over from this candle. So it was about here. $4 is where you could have been getting in over here. And it just kind of retraced that. So kind of neat to look at the setup like, hey, buy it four, stop down at three. Actually, that's wider. I drew that too wide. So earlier in the day, buy at four, stop at three. That would have worked. And then later in the day, buy it $1, buy a couple of them at 0.5. I don't know if you would have been filled if you bought multiple at 0.25, but it did run up and got me out at four. Um, and then had I held on longer, I would have had to pull back. Actually, it would have entered again. It could have worked again to enter at one and then get out at like 9. But that's holding to the very last few seconds of the day. And I try not to do that, especially something so far in the money like this one was. Um, Such a high value. So where did we end up closing? I didn't even check that price. Let me go back to that. If I can navigate here. Let's go back to the daily. Okay, so we ended up closing at 67.20. That's actually really weird that the 67.25 put ended up having such a large value, even though we were only a little less than $5 in the money. So the put should have expired closer to five, under five. Well, it did come back to 5.5, but it did spike up to around 9 here just with that move. So yeah, that's because of that lower wick. Okay. So yeah, we moved like $9 into the money. Yep, right about $9 into the money in the last 3 minutes, obviously, for this candle. Um, and then got some buying to come back in, but not much buying. And that's the last thing I think we'll say today. So this dotted line is off. I've said that before. It's way up here. It's just because when you add a little bit of these in between where things aren't trading, but somehow there's still something happening in between every day, like all it does is it spaces out some of these lines so that they're not accurate at this level. So we want to just look at that level on the daily. So right now or today, that price was around maybe 67.60. And so kind of if you rethink where this is located, it's going to be higher to 67.60. So around up here, actually very close to the low yesterday, 67.60, pretty close to that. It is not actually down here. It's not showing support. on this, let's see, we are way down here. I can kind of use it as a locator, but we're in some chop over here. We're back into that price range. Go back a little more. We were into kind of retested back into that high. We'll see if some bulls come in. We'll see if we get a little more of a bounce. We put in a lot of bear candles and one bull candle, and now another bear. So we haven't even retraced up with with two bull candles. We usually want to see that for an S curve. So yeah, I think this is just this has really shifted. Like all of this, it looks like there's so many more bears, but we went up. Actually, we're pretty flat from what I've got highlighted here. We're pretty flat, but it looks like the bear candles are significantly larger than all the bulls. We had a lot of gaps up through here. If we look back further, you can see generally it's even or it's more bullish, right? Here's some bigger bear candles, but there's some decent bull candles all throughout this, and there's not as many bear candles. You know, we're generally going up. There's very few bear candles. So it looks different. All of this on the screen right here looks different. We're relatively flat. We have smaller bear candles, some larger bull can. I'm sorry, I said that backwards. Smaller bull candles, larger bear candles, and I'm not sure how much more we're going to go down. We're at a good place where there's some support. Let me see if I've got another chart available real quick because I meant to show this. Okay, we blew right through that area that I was looking at today. I think I shared this. I'm looking at my other screen. Give me just a sec. I think I shared this recently. I don't remember when it was. Sometime last week. And this is where I have some fibs located based on this move way back here to here, calling that the 100%. And then we ran up and we were basically to the penny up here. This is the SPY plus 0.01. So if you look at your chart and you see a different high off by a penny, that's why. It's just so I can have these things on a separate chart and just go and look it up. But then I was looking at a pullback back over here. I was looking for a pullback uh, kind of right into this fib because we ran into that as resistance. We kind of tagged it again here. So that price was 673 and like 9 cents because this is plus 0.01. So take a cent off of that. So 673.09. So we blew through that today. So if we go look at what we were doing around that price today, what was that? Oh, I'm not looking at SPX. All right, I'm looking at SPY. I'm not looking at SPY. Let me look at the 3 minute and see what was going on. We ran down. So here we opened, ran right down and got a bounce right off of that fib. Bounce came into the moving average, rolled down, stayed below it, retested back into that level, ran into some resistance again here. So basically, let me draw on this, ran down, nice bounce. Okay, gave it up. We got back into it over here. False breakout, collapsed, resistance, 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 collapse. Or not collapse, but roll back down. So these fibs are working. Um, let me go back and if you want to grab these values or grab exactly where I drew it, you can grab that. That's the old one. So the 0% was the 619.3. Actually, remember this is SPX I'm sorry, SPY plus 0.01. You can type in something like that and like think or swim. On TradingView, it's pretty easy. It's just doing some math, but it adds a penny. So if you take that penny back out and do just this on your SPY chart, 619.29 would be the value and 646.19 would be the value. And then the way that it does the fibs is a little bit off because there's multipliers. We're we're up by a cent, so it's kind of like we're up by 2 cents because we doubled, or something like that. So anyway, We may be off by a little more than a cent by the time we do some multiplication and look for some of these fib extensions. That said, we still did a really good job bouncing right off of this. And it surprised me how well this moves in relation to these fib levels. So if I go back over here, we ran up into that fib level to the penny, and then we broke down here, pretty much bounced and then held a level through here for going lower, came back into it. We were kind of magnetized to this, consolidating. You can draw some consolidation in here. You can kind of draw like this. They were doing something like that. And then what do you know? From here, we capped down, not quite to the fib, but we're getting some chopping, and then we get into the fib right here. I drew that off a little bit, but it just seems like we're playing into these fib levels. So hopefully this is something you can look at and put something together for your own charts to make some sense of how are things moving. It keeps going way out to my older stuff. So if we do continue down, I would think somewhere around this level would be next. So this is 663 area, right? 662.83. So 663, we kind of had to bounce a little bit above that here. Just trying to think, where's our next kind of S curve? I think it's this whole thing, kind of this. So this one, maybe this. So 663 would be good. Below that would be mid 650s or 657, probably, somewhere the levels, like any of these numbers. So like 663, 660, 656, 653. I'm just kind of rounding to the dollar amount. But I mean, we've got the 50 exponential here. We got the 100 exponential here. This one's way down at 646. Wow. If we get down there, that means we've taken out this low and this wick. That would be significant. Okay, let's see where things go Friday, and then I can revisit some of this. But yeah, hope this makes sense, and you've got some values that you're tracking to for these charts. And I hope this helps. This is Justin. Thanks.